In the unforgiving Wyoming territory of 1878, where justice bends to wealth and skin color, Sarah Freeman stands alone before a hostile court. The pregnant black midwife faces hanging for stealing medicine to save children abandoned by the town doctor. When feared gunslinger Elijah Stone claims her as his wife, their desperate deception challenges a corrupt town's prejudice, a ruthless mine owner's conspiracy, and the dark secret behind her unborn child's true inheritance. The courthouse doors exploded open. Silence fell across the room like a heavy blanket. Elijah Stone strode down the aisle, his boots leaving faint traces of dried blood on the polished floor. His reputation walked before him. 27 men dead, each killing deemed justified by frontier law or simple absence of witnesses. The prosecutor's words died mid-sentence. Judge Harmon's gavel hovered in midair. Sarah Freeman stood alone at the defendant's table, 7 months pregnant, back straight as a fence post, hands shackled before her, the only black face in the courtroom aside from the man who swept the steps outside. Stone's eyes locked with hers. A silent current passed between them. "Your Honor," Stone's voice cut like steel through the whispers, "this trial is a farce." The judge found his voice. "Mr. Stone, this court does not recognize your authority to—" "That woman is my lawfully wedded wife." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The prosecutor's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. Sarah's face betrayed nothing. They had never exchanged vows. "I demand proof of this claim," Judge Harmon said. Stone reached inside his coat. Half the men flinched. He withdrew a weathered paper instead of a weapon and placed it on the judge's bench. "Marriage certificate signed 2 years ago in Denver." The judge examined the document with narrowed eyes. Stone moved beside Sarah. His arm brushed hers as he leaned in. "Play along or we both hang," he whispered. The words were barely audible, just breath against her ear. Sarah gave a slight nod. Judge Harmon cleared his throat. "This appears to be in order, though highly irregular. Court will recess until tomorrow morning so the defendant's husband can prepare a proper defense." The gallery erupted in murmurs as the bailiff led Sarah away. Stone's eyes tracked her until she disappeared through the side door. In her cell that evening, Sarah heard the heavy door at the end of the corridor swing open. The sheriff nodded to Stone and left them alone. "You shouldn't be here," Sarah said. Stone's face was carved from mountain granite. "Neither should you." "I did what I had to do." "So am I." Sarah stepped closer to the bars. 3 years is a long time to remember a debt. Stone unbuttoned his shirt collar. A scar like forked lightning marked the hollow of his throat. "Hard to forget the woman who dug a bullet from your chest when every doctor in Colorado refused." Sarah's mind flashed back to the abandoned cabin, the man bleeding out on a rough-hewn table, her fingers inside the wound, seeking the lead that would kill him if not removed. Your thanks could have been a letter, not perjury before a judge. "You prefer hanging?" Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her swollen belly. Stone noticed. "Tell me about the trial," he said. 12 dead from the fever outbreak last winter. I'm accused of stealing medicine from Dr. Whitfield's supply, causing those deaths with stolen remedies that poisoned instead of healed." Stone's eyes narrowed. "Those charges don't fit what I know of you. Truth rarely matters when a black woman stands accused." "It will this time." Stone's voice held a certainty that made Sarah study him anew. "Tell me everything about Carlton Hayes." "The mine owner? What's he got to do with this?" "He's been watching the trial. Man like that doesn't waste time unless there's something valuable at stake." Sarah's expression darkened. "Hayes runs this town. The judge, the sheriff. Even Whitfield jumps when Hayes snaps his fingers." Their conversation ended when the sheriff returned. Stone tipped his hat to Sarah before leaving. "See you in court, Mrs. Stone." The next morning, Stone entered the courthouse with 3 strangers, a saloon girl, a grizzled stable hand, and a Mexican trader. Each testified to witnessing the marriage between Stone and Sarah in Denver. Through careful questioning, Stone established their fabricated timeline, how they'd met when she treated his wounds, their quiet ceremony, his departure on business that kept them apart. When court recessed for lunch, Sarah whispered, "Where did you find these people?" "Everyone has secrets they'd prefer stay buried, even witnesses." "You blackmailed them?" Stone's eyes remained fixed ahead. "I call it negotiation." That afternoon, Dr. Whitfield took the stand, a man with soft hands and a hardened heart. He testified that 11 bottles of imported medicine had disappeared during the height of the fever outbreak. How 12 patients died after Sarah visited them. How she had been seen entering his office unauthorized. The defendant administered home remedies containing stolen medicine, the doctor said, voice dripping with disdain. Improper mixing caused the deaths. Stone approached the witness stand with casual menace. "Dr. Whitfield, how many patients did you personally treat during the outbreak?" The doctor straightened his waistcoat. 43. "And how many died under your care?" "Objection," the prosecutor said. "Irrelevant." "I'm establishing the witness's expertise," Stone replied. Judge Harmon nodded reluctantly. "Answer the question." 17, Whitfield admitted. "So more died under your care than allegedly died from my wife's treatments." Whitfield's face flushed. "I treated the most serious cases." "Did you treat any patients from the south side of town, where the colored folks live?" A tense silence filled the courtroom. "Those people have their own healers." "Those people? You mean American citizens?" "Objection!" the prosecutor shouted. "Withdrawn," Stone said. "Let me ask differently. During the outbreak, did you refuse treatment to anyone who came to your office?" "I treated those with the means to pay." "Did anyone die after you turned them away?" Whitfield's eyes darted toward Carlton Hayes, who sat in the back row. "I cannot say." "You cannot or will not." The doctor's silence spoke volumes. When court adjourned, Sarah found herself back in her cell. Stone visited again after dark. "Your defense has holes," Sarah said. "The timing doesn't work. You were seen in Montana when we were supposedly married." "Details can be managed. Not these. The prosecutor knows you've been gone. He'll ask about the baby next." Stone's eyes dropped to her belly. "I've thought of that." Sarah gripped the bars. "No matter what story you tell, they'll never believe a man like you married a woman like me without cause." Stone's face remained unreadable. "What exactly is a man like me?" "A killer with white skin and a reputation that parts crowds." "And a woman like you?" Sarah met his gaze. "Someone who saves lives, instead of taking them." That night, Stone left the jail and headed toward the saloon. In the shadows across the street, Carlton Hayes watched with calculating eyes as the gunslinger disappeared through the batwing doors. Moonlight spilled across the packed dirt streets of Whispering Creek. Stone moved like a shadow between buildings. He'd spent his life learning to vanish when needed. The skill had kept him alive as much as his gun hand. The Williams house sat on the edge of town, small, weathered, nearly invisible to those who mattered in Whispering Creek. Stone knocked once. Martha Williams opened the door a crack. Her eyes widened at the sight of him. "My boy ain't done nothing," she whispered. "Not hear about your boy. Need to ask about Sarah Freeman." The door opened wider. Inside, a small boy played with wooden blocks on a worn rug. His skin was feverish bright, breathing labored but steady. "She saved my Thomas," Martha said, "during the fever." "How?" "Dr. Whitfield wouldn't come. Said he was too busy with urgent cases across town." Martha's hands twisted in her apron. "Sarah brought medicine. Called it quinine from the doctor's supply. Said she took what no one else would miss." Stone studied the child. "Doctor claims she poisoned folks with stolen remedies." Martha's laugh was hard as winter ice. "Those who died never got treated by anyone. Doctor refused them. Sarah tried to reach everyone, but some were too far gone." Stone tipped his hat and left. 3 more houses that night. 3 more stories matching Martha's. Dawn painted the jailhouse walls gold through the barred window. Sarah sat up on her cot when Stone entered. "Where have you been?" "Learning things that might keep your neck out of a noose." Sarah's fingers traced circles on her belly. The child kicked beneath her hand. Stone leaned against the wall. "You were the only midwife who treated both white and colored during the outbreak." Sarah nodded. "You took Whitfield's medicine to help those he refused." "Everyone deserves care." Stone studied her face, the angle of her jaw, the steady defiance in her eyes. "That's going to be hard to prove in court." "Truth finds a way." "Not in my experience." The cell door scraped open. The sheriff nodded toward the courthouse. "Time," he said. The prosecutor paced before the jury like a wolf circling wounded prey. "Today's target. The marriage story itself. Mr. Stone, you claim to have wed Miss Freeman 2 years ago." "Mrs. Stone." "Indeed. Strange, then, that witnesses place you in Montana that same month. Hunting bounties." Stone didn't flinch. "Got married on my way north." "Convenient timing." "Fortune favors the prepared." The prosecutor smiled without warmth. "Let's address what everyone sees, but no one mentions. Your purported wife is with child." Tension pulled the courtroom tight as a drum skin. "Mrs. Stone is expecting our child in about 2 months. 7 months pregnant? Yet you've been absent how long?" "My work takes me places." "For years at a time?" Stone's eyes hardened. "A man provides how he can." The prosecutor turned to the jury. "Or perhaps the child belongs to another man entirely." A muscle twitched in Stone's jaw. His hand drifted toward his empty holster before stopping. "Your Honor, my wife's virtue is not on trial here." Judge Harmon nodded. "Mind your questions, counselor." The prosecutor changed tactics. For the rest of the day, he paraded witnesses who claimed to have seen Sarah taking medicine from Whitfield's office. Each testimony felt rehearsed. Each witness had connections to the Hayes mining operation. When court adjourned, Hayes himself waited outside. Stone watched the mine owner's eyes follow Sarah as she was led back to jail. The look made Stone's gun hand itch. Night fell like a heavy blanket over the town. Stone picked the lock on Whitfield's office door and slipped inside. He searched methodically. Patient records, supply inventories, a hidden bottle of whiskey. Nothing revealing until he found a leather-bound ledger in a locked drawer. Names and dates in 2 columns. Left side, patients treated. Right side, patients turned away. Notes beside each, inability to pay. Colored, refer elsewhere. Hayes instruction, deny treatment. Stone tucked the ledger inside his coat and disappeared into the night. Across town, a small house stood apart from others. Stone watched from the shadows as a white woman emerged with a basket of laundry, too fine a dress for washing clothes. He recognized her from town, Hayes's housekeeper. The woman glanced around before hurrying to a small shed behind the main house. Stone followed silently. Inside the shed, 3 children played quietly on a pallet bed. 1 white, 2 with skin like coffee with cream. All healthy, all supposedly dead according to town records. Stone retreated before being seen. The pieces were beginning to fit together. Morning light brought a new witness to the stand. Mary Collins. Face hollow with grief, hands trembling as she spoke. "My Abigail took sick during the fever. Doctor said she wasn't worth his time. Sarah came instead, brought medicine, but my girl still died." The prosecutor circled. "And this medicine caused your daughter's death?" Mary shook her head. "Sarah's medicine gave Abby 3 more days of life, more than the doctor gave her." "Then why is your daughter's name on the list of those allegedly poisoned by the defendant?" Mary's eyes darted to Hayes in the gallery. "I never said that. Someone else put her name there." Sarah squeezed Stone's arm under the table. A silent message. During the recess, Sarah spoke urgently through the cell bars. "Those children aren't dead, the ones I supposedly poisoned." "I know. Found 3 of them last night, hiding in a shed behind Hayes's property." Sarah's eyes widened. "His housekeeper, Isabella. She has children by him. Mixed blood children." Yes. When they took sick, he ordered Whitfield to deny them treatment. Said they'd complicate his upcoming marriage to the railroad baron's daughter. Stone's face darkened. So you stepped in? Isabella begged me. I couldn't watch children die when I had the means to help. So Hayes fabricated this case to silence you. Sarah's hand tightened around the iron bar. He doesn't know everything yet. What else? The baby. Her voice dropped lower. It's his brother's child. Stone went still. Hayes had a brother? William. He died in a mining accident 3 months ago. We were married in secret last year. His family never knew. Understanding dawned in Stone's eyes. This child stands to inherit half the Hayes fortune, if acknowledged. Stone's mind raced through the implications. That explains why Hayes wants you convicted before the birth. A felon can't inherit. Neither can their child. Sarah nodded. William left papers with a lawyer in Denver, proving our marriage, acknowledging any child of mine as his heir. Hayes knows about the papers? He suspects, but can't be certain. Stone paced the small jail corridor. This changes things. It doesn't change what's right. The jail door opened. The sheriff entered with Carlton Hayes himself. Stone faded back into the shadows of the adjoining cell. Hayes approached Sarah's cell. Expensive suit, manicured hands, eyes cold as river stones in January. I've come to offer a solution to your predicament. Sarah stood straight, one hand protective over her belly. Sign a confession. Admit to stealing the medicine and causing those deaths. In exchange, I'll ensure the judge sentences you to imprisonment rather than hanging. And my child? Hayes's smile never reached his eyes. Will be well cared for. In an institution suited to its kind? No. Be reasonable. A colored woman convicted of multiple deaths has no hope in this court. I didn't kill anyone. Hayes leaned closer to the bars. Neither did those 3 children you're hiding with Isabella. But accidents happen, even to children. Sarah's face drained of color. You have until tomorrow to decide. Hayes turned and left. The sheriff followed like an obedient dog. Stone emerged from the shadows, his face carved from stone. Time I paid Hayes a visit, he said. Sarah gripped his wrist through the bars. Don't get yourself killed on my account. Stone covered her hand with his, the first gentle touch between them since he'd arrived. Not planning on dying today. He slipped out into the night. The air smelled like rain. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, black and pregnant with violence yet to come. Carlton Hayes did not hear Stone enter his study. Such men rarely notice the shadows until too late. The mine owner sat at his mahogany desk, writing letters by lamplight, wealth displayed in every corner of the room. Trophies of power. Stone's gun pressed against the back of Hayes's head. Cold metal kissing skin. Don't stand, Stone said. Hayes froze, pen suspended above paper. You're making a grave mistake. Been making those my whole life. One more won't matter. Stone moved around to face him, gun steady. Why target Sarah Freeman? Hayes's eyes calculated distances, possibilities, survival chances. Business requires order. She disrupted mine. By saving children you wanted dead? A flicker of surprise crossed Hayes's face, quickly masked. I see you've been busy. Found your housekeeper's children, the ones supposedly killed by Sarah's medicine. Irrelevant now. Also found Whitfield's records, names of people he refused to treat, on your orders. Hayes leaned back in his chair, the initial shock fading to practiced composure. Accusations from a notorious gunman against a respected businessman. Who do you think this town will believe? Town doesn't need to believe anything, just the judge. Hayes smiled, a predator's smile. Judge Harmon has a son working in my mine. Sheriff Taylor has a brother-in-law as foreman. Dr. Whitfield owes me money. This valley belongs to me, Stone. Every rock, every tree, every man with a vote or a badge. Not every man. Hayes studied Stone's face. What's your price? Not for sale. Everyone has a price. Name yours. Stone pressed the gun harder against Hayes's temple. Tell me about your brother's widow. Hayes went very still. What did she tell you? Enough. This trial isn't about stolen medicine, it's about stolen inheritance. Hayes stood slowly. Stone allowed it, gun tracking his movement. My brother had peculiar tastes, made poor choices. Like marrying a colored woman. A mistake I'm correcting. Stone's finger tightened on the trigger, 1 pound of pressure away from ending the conversation permanently. Here's how this ends, Stone said. You drop all charges against Sarah, acknowledge your brother's child as legitimate heir. Or I put a bullet where it'll do the most good. Hayes laughed softly. Kill me, and you both hang before sundown. Maybe. Definitely. The silence stretched between them. 2 wolves circling. I have proof, Hayes finally said, of your crimes across 3 territories. Witnesses ready to testify you're a cold-blooded killer, not some principled gunslinger. The moment you're no longer useful to that woman, I'll bury you both. Stone holstered his gun. Action more threatening than the weapon itself. See you in court, Hayes. Dawn arrived sullen and gray. Sarah had not slept. Her child moved restlessly within her, sensing her disquiet. Stone entered the jail carrying a small cloth bundle. The sheriff let him pass with a suspicious glance. Brought something, he said. Sarah unwrapped the bundle. Inside, dried herbs, willow bark, sage, juniper berries. Where did you find these? Edge of town. Remembered what you used on me years back. Sarah arranged the herbs on her palm, fingers sorting, testing. This juniper is old, not as potent. Best I could find in the dark. Her eyes met his, the simple gift revealing more than words. Let me show you something. She took his hand, placed it against her belly. The child kicked against his palm. Stone withdrew his hand. Something unfamiliar crossed his face, a softening. Hayes knows everything, he said, about you and his brother. Sarah nodded. I expected as much. He'll use anything to win, threaten those children, destroy your reputation. Truth is all I have. Stone paced the small cell. Truth is a luxury most can't afford. It's all I can give my child. Even if it gets you both killed? Sarah's hand cradled her belly. Some things matter more than living. Stone's jaw tightened. Nothing matters more than survival. That's where we differ. Stone leaned against the bars, closer than necessary. Tell me about William Hayes. A small smile touched Sarah's lips, memory warming her face like distant sunlight. He wasn't like his brother, gentle, saw people as people, not possessions. We met when he brought injured miners to me after the collapse at Shaft 6. How long were you married? 8 months, in secret. He was preparing to announce it publicly when the new shaft collapsed. Accident. Sarah's eyes hardened. Carlton was cutting costs on support beams. William threatened to report it. 3 days later, he was dead. Court reconvened under storm clouds. Thunder rumbled in the distance, nature itself unsettled by the proceedings below. The prosecutor called his final witness, Isabella Reyes, Hayes's housekeeper. The woman entered with downcast eyes, shoulders bent as if carrying an invisible weight. Stone watched Hayes nod almost imperceptibly to the woman. Miss Reyes, do you know the defendant? Yes, sir. She delivered my first 2 children. And during the fever outbreak? Isabella's hands twisted in her lap. She brought medicine to my home. For my sick children. Medicine stolen from Dr. Whitfield? A tear slid down Isabella's cheek. Yes, sir. And what happened after your children took this medicine? Isabella glanced at Hayes. Then Sarah, a silent apology in her eyes. They got better, Because of her medicine. The prosecutor stumbled. This wasn't the testimony he expected. Miss Reyes, didn't you tell me yesterday that your children became violently ill after taking the defendant's remedies? No, sir. I said they were already ill. Sarah saved them. The courtroom stirred. Hayes rose from his seat, face darkening like the storm outside. Isabella straightened her spine. My children are alive because of Sarah Freeman, not dead like the doctor claimed. Judge Harmon banged his gavel as whispers spread through the gallery. Order! The prosecutor huddled with Hayes. Urgent whispers, angry gestures. When court recessed, Sarah gripped Stone's arm. Isabella risked everything. Hayes will make her pay for that. We need to protect her, the children. Stone nodded. Already arranged it. They'll be on tonight's stage to Denver. Sarah studied his face. Why are you doing all this? Stone looked away. Told you, I repay my debts. This goes beyond debt. Rain began to fall outside, drops tapping against the courthouse windows like impatient fingers. That night, Stone did not come to the jail. Sarah waited until the last lamp was extinguished. No familiar footsteps in the corridor, no shadow at her cell door. Morning arrived with no sign of him. Sarah was led to court alone. The absence beside her at the defense table felt colder than the iron shackles on her wrists. The prosecutor looked smug. Hayes sat in the front row now, power and certainty radiating from him like heat from a forge. Judge Harmon cleared his throat. Where is Mr. Stone? Sarah lifted her chin. I don't know, Your Honor. Cannot proceed without defense counsel. Then I'll represent myself. The gallery murmured. A pregnant colored woman defending herself in a white man's court. Unheard of. The judge frowned. Most irregular, but I'll allow it. The prosecutor delivered his closing argument. A masterpiece of innuendo and circular logic. Sarah stole medicine. People died during the outbreak. Therefore, Sarah caused those deaths. Motive, attention, petty revenge against the doctor who had more knowledge than she. When her turn came, Sarah rose awkwardly, the child within her making balance difficult. She placed both hands on her belly, drawing strength from the life there. I did take medicine from Dr. Whitfield, she began. The gallery gasped. I took what was needed to save those he refused to treat, not for profit, not for power, but because every life deserves a chance. Her voice grew stronger with each word, eyes sweeping across the faces watching her. I have delivered the children of half the women in this room, white and colored alike, brought your sons and daughters into this world, tended your fevers, set your broken bones. I have never turned away anyone who needed help. Rain lashed against the windows, the storm finally breaking in full. If that makes me guilty, then I accept your judgment. Sarah returned to her seat as the jury filed out to deliberate. The bailiff approached to return her to the cell. As he reached for her arm, the courthouse doors swung open. Stone stood in the doorway, rain-soaked, grim-faced, not alone. Behind him stood Dr. Whitfield, pale and trembling. Lightning flashed through the courtroom windows, a perfect backdrop for Stone's return. Dr. Whitfield stood beside him, collar torn, eyes wild with fear. Judge Harmon rose from his bench. What is the meaning of this interruption? Stone nudged Whitfield forward. The doctor has something to tell the court. Whitfield stumbled to the witness stand. His hands shook as he gripped the railing. Hayes half rose from his seat, face darkening like the storm clouds outside. Speak, Stone commanded. Whitfield swallowed hard. I lied in my testimony. The gallery erupted. Judge Harmon banged his gavel for order. Sarah Freeman didn't poison anyone. Those who died never received treatment from her or anyone else. The prosecutor approached the bench. Your Honor, this testimony is clearly coerced. It's the truth, Whitfield insisted, his voice gaining strength. I refused to treat certain patients during the outbreak, on direct orders from Carlton Hayes. All eyes turned to Hayes. The mine owner's face revealed nothing, a statue carved from cold ambition. Hayes instructed me to deny care to those who couldn't pay, and to all colored folks. Said it was business. Resources were limited. Stone placed a leather-bound book on the judge's bench. Whitfield's records. Names of those turned away. Those who died without care. The judge examined the ledger. His face grew graver with each page turned. And the charges against Mrs. Freeman? Fabricated, Whitfield admitted. Hayes threatened my practice if I didn't testify against her. Judge Harmon conferred with the jury foreman. Minutes stretched like hours. The storm raged outside, wind rattling the windows. Nature's judgment on human affairs. In light of this new evidence, the jury finds the defendant not guilty on all charges. Sarah closed her eyes, one hand pressed against her heart, the other cradling her belly. Stone moved to her side. His fingertips brushed her elbow, the closest thing to celebration his face would allow. The moment of victory lasted precisely 3 breaths. "Arrest that man," Hayes demanded, pointing at Stone, "for kidnapping and coercing a witness." Sheriff Taylor stepped forward, hand on his gun. 2 deputies flanked him. Stone didn't resist as they shackled his wrists. His eyes met Sarah's. A silent message passed between them. This isn't over. Sarah was released. Stone was imprisoned. The irony tasted bitter on her tongue as she walked free from the courthouse, rain soaking her dress, freedom feeling hollow without justice. Women approached her on the street, mothers whose children she had delivered, families she had treated, white and colored alike. They brought food, blankets, news. Hayes had scheduled Stone's hanging for dawn. No trial, just frontier justice for a known criminal. Sarah sat in Martha Williams's kitchen that night, rain tapping on the tin roof like nervous fingers. Women gathered around her, faces determined, hands that had birthed babies, buried husbands, built lives from nothing but grit and hope. "We need to stop this," Sarah said. Martha nodded. "Sent my boy to gather the others. Southside folks are coming too." By midnight, the small house overflowed with people, those saved by Sarah's medicine, those who remembered William Hayes's kindness, those who despised his brother's cruelty. Sarah placed a hand on her swollen belly. The child kicked against her palm. William's child. Hayes' blood. "I have something to tell you all," she said. The room fell silent as she shared her story. Her secret marriage to William Hayes, the child who would be heir to half the Hayes fortune, the real reason Carlton wanted her convicted or dead. Dawn approached with leaden skies. The rain had stopped, leaving mud and pewter puddles in the streets. The gallows stood ready in the town square. Stone was led from the jail, hands bound before him. Hayes supervised the proceedings from horseback, Sheriff Taylor at his side. 20 hired men formed a protective circle around the gallows, guns visible at their hips. Stone climbed the 13 steps without hesitation. His face betrayed nothing as the noose was fitted around his neck. Hayes urged his horse forward. "Any last words, Gunslinger?" Stone's eyes found a point beyond the crowd. "Just waiting." "For what? Divine intervention?" "Something like that." The sound came first. Boots on mud. Dozens, then hundreds of footsteps. From every street people emerged. Women with determination hardening their faces, men with tools still in hand from the mines, children hiding behind skirts, the South Side residents marching alongside their white neighbors. Sarah walked at the front, back straight despite her pregnancy, eyes locked on Hayes. The mine owner's face twisted with disbelief. "What is this?" "Justice," Sarah answered, her voice carried across the sudden silence. Hayes laughed, brittle and forced. "Clear this rabble, Sheriff." Sheriff Taylor glanced at the crowd, at the faces of people he'd known his whole life. His deputy had already stepped back, unwilling to draw on his own neighbors. "Think you should hear what she has to say, Mr. Hayes." Sarah stepped forward, one hand resting on her belly, the other raised toward the crowd. "This man," she pointed to Hayes, "is not who you think he is." Hayes signaled his hired men. "Remove her." None moved. They looked from Hayes to the crowd surrounding them. Simple arithmetic. 20 guns against hundreds of witnesses. I am not Elijah Stone's wife, Sarah continued, though he risked his life claiming so to save mine. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I was married to William Hayes, Carlton's brother, who died in a mining accident 3 months ago. Hayes spurred his horse forward. Lies. Desperate lies from a desperate woman. I have proof. Marriage certificate in Denver, witnessed by Reverend Thomas Cole. No colored could legally marry my brother. William didn't see color. Only people. The crowd pressed closer. Hayes's horse pranced nervously, sensing its rider's fear. This child I carry is William's heir, rightful owner of half the Hayes fortune. Sarah's voice strengthened. Carlton fabricated charges against me to prevent this child from claiming its birthright. Hayes drew his pistol, aimed it directly at Sarah's heart. I'll not be swindled by a colored whore and her gunslinger accomplice. The moment balanced on a knife edge. Hayes's finger tightened on the trigger. Stone's voice cut through the tension. I wouldn't, Hayes. You're in no position to make threats. Not a threat. A warning. Hayes glanced up. Stone stood on the gallows, hands free. The executioner lay unconscious at his feet. The sheriff had his own gun trained on Hayes now. The game's over, Stone said. Hayes swung his gun toward Stone. The shot cracked across the square. Stone remained standing. Hayes looked down at his chest in confusion, at the blood spreading across his fine coat. The sheriff's smoking gun told the story. He drew first, Sheriff Taylor said to no one in particular. Whole town witnessed it. Hayes fell from his horse, dead before he hit the ground. 6 weeks later, Sarah held her newborn son. Tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb, eyes the same deep brown as his father's. Stone watched from the doorway of the small house William Hayes had purchased for his wife in secret, preparations for departure evident in his packed saddlebags. He has William's eyes, Sarah said without looking up, and your stubborn chin. A smile touched her lips. Where will you go? Where trouble is. It's all I know. Sarah finally looked at him. The connection between them had deepened into something neither had words for. Not quite love, more than debt. A recognition of kindred spirits who had walked through fire together. The lawyer from Denver confirmed it. William's will stands. Half the mine belongs to little William now. Stone nodded. Hayes Mining will need protection. Carlton had enemies beyond this valley. I can hire men for that? Not like me. Sarah studied his face. The hardness there, earned through years of violence and survival. But something else too. A flicker of possibility. Stone adjusted his hat, readying to leave. Goodbye, Mrs. Hayes. He turned toward the door, toward the life he knew. Solitary, violent, purpose without peace. Wait. Stone paused without turning. Sarah rose, cradling her son. This boy needs someone to teach him about his father, the good man he was, not the Hayes name and all its poison. I'm not one for telling stories. Then show him instead how to stand against what's wrong, how to protect what matters. Stone faced her, the mask slipping just enough to reveal uncertainty beneath. What would folks say? About a gunslinger raising a child? They'd say that child is the safest soul in the territory. Stone looked at the baby, this new life, his dead friend's son, the future he never imagined for himself. Sarah stepped closer. Stay. Not as my husband, but as his protector, until he's old enough to stand on his own. Stone removed his hat, held it in hands more accustomed to weapons than tenderness. His answer came not in words, but in the gentlest touch as he brushed a finger against the baby's cheek. Outside, spring painted the Wyoming hills green, the world turning toward renewal after the long winter. Inside, 3 souls formed something new, not quite family, but no longer alone.